So the Houston Rockets are attempting to acquire, and according to reports, which I no longer know how many reports I believe, because there's some guy who's close to the source in Boston who doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's about as reliable as everyday media is now. The Houston Rockets are close on a deal to acquiring Carmelo Anthony. And the only thing I'm hearing from literally every single station that I watch or anybody who's on the radio that I listen to is, wow, can you put three ball-dominant guys together? Can you put Chris Paul needs to dominate the ball? James Harden was just second in the league in usage rate. And Carmelo Anthony hasn't passed the basketball since he was 5 years old. Can they all work on the same team? Of course they can work on the same team. This imaginary definition that we give to players in terms of them being ball-dominant players is ridiculous. It's outdated. And it's truly just ineffective. Every player is a result of their system. All you need to think of just these players in a nutshell. What was Steph Curry before Steve Kerr got to Golden State? Oh, I think he was a ball-centric, ball-dominant point guard that shot the ball 20 to 25 times a game. Put up all those threes at Davidson. That was made him such a cultural icon of sorts. It's like you got this little guy beating the big guys by shooting three-point shots. Let's look at just James Harden's career. James Harden was the sixth man. Then he became the star volume scorer. Then the system transitioned him into a point guard. He adjusted. He adapted. No one ever said, well, I really don't think you should get James Harden because he just doesn't pass the ball enough. He doesn't do this much enough. No. He's a great player. Great players can adapt. Chris Paul even adapted considering his style of play when he was in New Orleans compared to how he was in LA. Yeah, people are going to look at, oh, well, he was still just a pass-first, ball-dominant point guard. No, he had to adjust his style of play to the teammates he had. Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, those kind of players weren't around in New Orleans in the beginning of his career. Take two power forwards, right? And I'm not even crazy about either. I'm not crazy about either of these players. But you take Chris Bosh and Kevin Love. What were Chris Bosh and Kevin Love with their original teams? Ball-centric, ball-dominant power forwards. Scored 20, 25 points a game. Had the ball 30 to 40% of their offense. Were the number one option on their teams. And then they became three-point shooting rebounders? Like, there is this whole belief that, oh, this guy's ball dominant, he can't play with anybody, is a bunch of bull. You're a product of your system. Sometimes your system, you adapt to your system, become that kind of player. Like Steph Curry is now thought of as a well-passing and a ball share. What do you talk about all the time with the Warriors? They all share the ball. They all pass first. Even though they got three guys who could average 25 a game, they all pass. They make the extra pass. They get the guy open because they've all bought into the system, and that's reflected in their play. You get a guy like Steve Nash. Steve Nash, when he first came into the league, broke in as a ball-centric, ball-dominant shooting point guard. Now, he was never the level or the talent that some of these other guys were, like an Iverson, like a Westbrook. But he became a product of his system, and that system shaped his play. Take Russell Westbrook. There's another guy. Russell Westbrook at UCLA was a defensive, basically a backup point guard, even though they started him at the 2. He didn't start over Drew Holiday. Russell Westbrook is now just finished leading the NBA in scoring at 30 points a game because the system required him to. No one has ever woken up and said, I'm a grocery bagger. That's what I do. I'm a proud grocery bagger. But you go to your job, that job has a system in place, that company has a system in place, and you bet your ass you will become a grocery bagger. No one ever wakes up and is like, I'm going to wash cars for the rest of my life. But when you're 16, 17 years old and you need a job, you'll become a car washer. If that's what your company and your job requires you to do, you fit in with the system, and that system starts to reflect your character, your responsibilities, and I bet you'll become a very good grocery bagger at the end of that job. System makes the person, and the person adapts to the system. Unless you are Jesus Christ himself, don't tell me you can't fit in with the system. Don't tell me that you are this player, you will be this player until you die. Because there's not a person who is that stubborn been born yet. And if they have, they're not in the league.